We are now talking about the voice of the community, right? And we've been talking about redefining the why and essential. And one of the things we have to be honest about is that although when we talk about mental health and we talk about self-care, a lot of times we give people pamphlets, we give them phone numbers to contact, but people have lost that personal touch. You know, we just went through a pandemic. We're still going through the traces of it. And even before the pandemic, you know, even within the Black community, voices have been silenced. And so I thought it was in taste to have, you know, Hasan Perez, the clinical director of ARA Emotional Wellness Mental Hygiene, because you have just established, along with Sonny Pierre, you know, a direct place that people can actually come to. Not just a phone number, not just a pamphlet, but physically a place that they can come into and really deal with that mental health. Can you talk to our viewers a little bit, Hasan, about who you are, where you come from, and how you got into this work?
Absolutely. Thanks first and foremost for inviting me. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today.
Yes.
And the community. I'm born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, actually.
Wow.
I'm from the East Flatbush section of Brooklyn.
Okay.
And then from Bed-Stuy.
Yes.
We go deep, we run deep East Flatbush and Bed-Stuy.
Definitely.
I pretty much have lived there all my life. And I went into social work after growing up in a single family home, coming out of poverty, and you know, lifting yourself up by your bootstraps pretty much was the mentality that I grew up with out in East Flatbush. And I guess by the time I got to college, I had already decided that what I wanted to do was go back to my community and try to uplift more the people who I had left behind pretty much as I advanced and ventured on new endeavors outside of the community. Along the way, I had a lot of people who were very instrumental in coaching me and mentoring me and getting me to where I'm at today.
Wow.
And so entering social work was an opportunity to repay that, you know, all of the help that I received.
That's a big deal because, you know, social work is not looked at to some degree as a profession that's gonna bring you millions of dollars, right? It's really one of those professions that kind of tie into, it's gotta be a calling. You really gotta have a heart for your community. You really gotta care about seeing others come out of their situations. And so with the Haitian American Caucus, these platforms were created to say there are individuals who don't know how to navigate those resources. And so you are a great resource in the community. So from going from social work, how did you become a clinical director? Because I don't see many, you know, I mean, you represent a very unique community here. So how did that come about, and what was the work that was put into accomplishing
I guess it started at State University in New York, at SUNY Stony Brook out in Long Island, obtaining a bachelor's degree in social work, and then from there pursuing a master's degree in social work at Columbia University in Manhattan. Completed advanced standing program, so it only took 1 year to get the master's, which was very nice.
So you an intelligent brother. Okay.
And you know, after I graduated, I went to work right away, providing case management services to people who were victims of burnouts and were relocated by the city into the YMCAs. And so my role was to try to help them complete the housing applications necessary to get back into permanent housing. While I was doing that, the organization I was working for offered me tuition assistance to go back to school. So it wasn't in my plan, but with them offering the resources, I wound up accepting that offer, and then I went back and pursued a master's degree in public health from Vail College. So I guess upon completing that and working at the same time and growing my career, ultimately I just got promoted, you know, very quickly from case manager into assistant director, supervisor, then an assistant director, then an executive director.
Wow, so you just came up the ranks.
Yeah, and it happened pretty quick. You know, like something you said earlier, when you're in social work and your heart's in it, people really take note of that very fast.
Absolutely.
And they
Absolutely.
can tell, they can see the passion that you have for working with people. And that along, I guess, with respect and, good manners can take you very far.
Can take you very far. So basically, in layman terms, people work with people they love.
That's right. That's right.
If they don't love you, they're not gonna work with you.
You can have a door shut.
Let me ask you a question, because I wanted to really put this out there. Do you need to have training from your perspective to notice mental health?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Talk to the viewers about that, because in some of our communities, there are individuals who don't have all these credentials that you have.
Yes.
And they've had to suffer and deal with it and tackle it for a very long time. And they've had to come up with ways of how to identify what's going on.
Yeah.
So talk to that a little bit, because you're saying that you need training to identify it.
I believe so. I think that if a therapist or a provider, a mental health provider, is going to work with an individual who's suffering from a mental health condition, they really should have the expertise necessary in order to do that. It's really not as simple as just talking to someone and giving them advice. In fact, therapy is the opposite of giving advice. And I teach burgeoning therapists in the field, and often what they want to do when they come in is just start telling a person what to do and how to fix their life. But that's not therapy. Inside of each of us is a voice that knows how to correct the condition that we're in. It's about tapping into that. And so the place of the therapist is to help you tap deeper into your own self.
So really, you're putting the responsibility back on the individual.
It is all on the individual to grow.
So one of the biggest things that I stand on is learning how to take in responsibility, rejecting passivity, and learning how to lead courageously.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So you're saying that I'm not the person that's gonna fix your life. I have to. So does it tie into that old term that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them thirsty?
And I'm not the person that's gonna fix your life. You are.
Wow. Okay.
I'm just there to aid you in the process. Like a road sign, I'm gonna point you in the right direction.
So I know usually when you get on these types of platforms, or you have to speak to the fact of being a clinical director. A lot of times when it comes to the mental health piece, people always want to pull on your credentials. They want to pull on some of the cases that you've been involved in.
Absolutely.
But what I want to do is transition a little bit to the self-care.
Okay.
Because what I'm finding out is that, yes, we could talk about the self-care and the things and the ideas and the pulling out of the clients that you deal with.
Yes.
But you as a clinical director, what are you doing for self-care? And what are y'all doing in y'all community of clinical directors for self-care? Because I need to know that some of y'all coming down to Essential Men.
Awesome question. And I plan to use all the services here.
Okay.
You'll definitely see
So we could continue this interview.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
The King package sounds really nice as well.
Okay.
First and foremost, when we talk about self-care, it's important to understand to have like a joint definition of what it is, so we know that we're all talking about the same thing.
Okay.
And self-care is really a practice, and it takes practice. It's the practice of taking action in your life, but the actions are directed towards either preserving your health if you're in good health, or improving your health if your health is suffering in some way, if you're in pain, or you need to get better in some way.
Wow.
So that's really what self-care is. Either you're trying to preserve or you're trying to improve, and you have to take the action to do that. No one else can take the action for you.
Wow.
A man's wife can buy him the King package, but he has to drive here, come in, use the service, and make sure that he's taking the time out in his day to actually care for his own self.
So he could be a true king that's living like a king and not like a peasant.
That's right.
Okay. So with that said in mind, as we come to a place now where we make the transition, can you talk to the viewers? How can they stay in touch with you? Where can they find you at? Because
absolutely.
You are part of a very unique community.
Absolutely.
You're talking about coming back here, but when you come back to Essential Men, this is your time. You don't want people calling you and bothering you. This is your time. So how can they reach you on those days where you're not at Essential Men getting a massage or getting your hair cut or manicure?
Certainly. ARA, Emotional Wellness, Mental Hygiene website.
Okay.
So you can easily access there and contact us. Also, can I give out my direct art agency phone number?
Oh, you can.
Yeah.
I mean,
all right, great,
you know,
great.
you can.
347-520-5804. You'll contact myself or Sony directly. We handle all the intakes. You know, we're beyond just providing therapy, although we provide group therapy, family therapy, and individual therapy. We see our organization as a place for the community to improve, for the well-being of the community to advance. And so, you know, beyond working with individuals, families, and couples, we go into the community to provide service as well, whether that be along the lines of voter registration drive, giving out food to the homeless, etc. We want to be I guess, a beacon of light.
Absolutely. Let me tap that real quickly before you close out. You talked about being a beacon of light, and you talked about feeding the homeless.
Yeah.
One of the things sometimes that I have observed is that we fed the homeless, we've clothed people who didn't have clothes, who was out there in the cold. But one of the things I saw was that sometimes it was repeated services to the same people every year.
Yeah.
So what's your perspective on fixing that? Because if the same person is asking for food every year, what have we really done to help them move forward?
Yeah. Wow, that's a good question. You know, we're speaking to poverty and disenfranchisement, and it's really not easy to come out of that. You know, public assistance and social security systems, which a lot of people are depending on for their livelihood, is not really sufficient, and so support services in the community, pantry services, church services, etc., are really going to be vital on an ongoing basis because of that.
Very vital.
Yeah.
So this is a fight that we have to fight.
It is.
We can't lay down our weapons. We can't lay down our hands. We have to continue to come together and make sure that the Essential Men make sure that their community is essential first.
That's right.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much.